We've been thinking about the purpose of man, and we talked in the last video about God's purpose, and God's purpose, of course, is God manifestation. Jesus tells us there's none good but God. So if we want any good out of this universe, it's going to be God manifestation. So now we're considering man's purpose. We see the Elohim talking to each other back there in Genesis, the beginning. When they were decided to make man, they say, "Let us make man in our image." So, if we want to know what we're supposed to be, let's get an idea of what the Elohim are. The Elohim, we don't know much about them really either. We know that they're mighty ones. That's what their name implies. El, might, and the Elohim as mighty ones. So and we see that they are the ones with the hands-on creation. They're probably the ones doing the genetic manipulation in the uh, plants and animals and everything to create everything to bring about the purpose of God, to manifest the glory of God. And this is what they're doing. And mankind is made in the Elohim's image and similitude. So in the likeness of the Elohim, we are put in charge. Now, the Elohim are in charge of the physical changes and everything going on here on the planet that take hands. I mean, a lot of the changes take by just pure energy. It's done just by pure energy. And a lot of it's going to take hands on where the Elohim will be doing things. Um, so we can see that these Elohim are busy. They're doing things. They don't have a boring, immortal life. So many people say, "Oh, wouldn't immortality be boring? You'd learn everything you wanted to know, do everything you wanted to do, and then what are you doing? Just waiting to die, and you never die? It'd be an awful curse. Immortality would be a curse." So anyway, that's not what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. People who know that they can't achieve immortality, they kind of comfort themselves with such idiotic thoughts. The Elohim are busy, and they are enjoying themselves. They're having a good time doing God's will. I believe that. So the Elohim are talking to each other, and they say, "Well, let us make man in our image and our similitude." Now, in the image of man, I think that is the likeness of how the Elohim are doing God's will, and they have power over the earth to do things that cause creation to go in one way or another. They're putting their finger in here and there and redirecting the flow of life and energy and the happenings that are happening. So, and then in the similitude is, see, something would make us similar to the Elohim other than just the power that we have. The similitude is that we can receive communication from God and know God's will. We're the only animal that has this part of our brain that works beyond just straight out programming. We are the only, to the best of our knowledge, on this planet, there's no other animal with free will besides man. We know what the animals are going to do given a certain situation if we have enough information. Because they don't have free will. Man has free will. We can imagine different possibilities. We can consider things that aren't even there. We can speculate and compare things in a way that's beyond any of the other animals. So we have the ability to receive instruction from God. Things that can't be seen. Things that can only exist in the mind. We can say, well, my animal nature desires something. But considering what I know of God and His will, I think it would be better to do something else. Animals don't do that. They are programmed. Whatever their flesh desires, that is what they're going for. And virtually, no, the vast majority of all mankind just are pure animals. That's all they are. They're just programmed. They don't use their brain. They don't think. They're just mindless robots. And I know I sound insulting. And well, I probably am insulting. Come to think of it, yes, I am. But that doesn't make it any less true. I honestly believe that they are all robots that just hate using their God-given mind. They just hate doing it, and it makes me sad because I see so many people that I would like to see turn to God and be something more than an animal. Use your brain. Think it out. But they don't think. They don't think at all. They shut their brain off. They watch the TV, which deadens the brain. It's a dope. It's an addiction, and all it does is keep you from thinking. Whoever's watching this video, and I hope that all my grandchildren and great-grandchildren are watching this, if there's anything that I want to convey to you here, just to start off, it's don't, don't deaden your brain. Don't avoid thought. Do it on purpose. If I could get each one of you just to sit down and close your eyes, turn the TV, the radio, the iPod, turn all your gadgets off, and sit and think for a few minutes every day. Let your brain work. Let your mind work. Let your similarity with the Elohim become active. That's your first step. That's your first step to becoming Elohim. We know that God's purpose is to call out a people for His name. That is, there's going to be a group from His creation. There's going to be a group of humans that are going to manifest God in their lives, and that's the purpose of mankind on this planet. You can you have a choice. Everything you do constantly, whatever you're doing, you always have a choice. And the choices are always, they can be narrowed down to the two biggest categories of life and death. If you want to serve the devil, that is your fleshly inclinations, your animal nature. Just know animal nature is the devil. So I won't have to be saying devil all the time because that has so many bad connotations. So when you're serving the devil, you're serving your animal nature. Okay. Now, a lot of times that's good. It's okay as long as it's not in opposition to God. See, there's so many things that something that tastes good. Doesn't God give us all kinds of delicious tasting foods? And we're free to eat them, and He gives them to us. Yeah, and we can enjoy that. So just because something is pleasing to the animal nature doesn't make it bad. What makes it bad was when that is what motivates us. When that is our master. See, we got a choice between two masters. We got life on one side, we got death on the other side. The life master is to serve God and His will. The death master is to serve the devil, human nature, and its will. So our motivations. That's what it's about. It's if we are motivated by the flesh, it's death. If we're motivated by God, it's life. And that's life everlasting. See, and now if we're talking about the nature of man and his purpose, I don't know. I get into this little kind of side topic because one of my grandchildren was talking with me just a little while ago, and we and I we were talking about mankind and his purpose, and I've lost it. Oh boy, what was it? What was it I talked to? Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. My memory is just going. The short-term memory seems to be the worst. It seems to be going. Anyway, mankind, to serve God is life, to serve the flesh is death. And I can't remember just what it was I was looking for, but to serve the flesh is death, to serve God is life. Serving God is life and everlasting. Oh no, we were talking about the flesh and death and life and immortality and mortality. So now I asked her, well, what are you? Are you your body? Are you your brain? Or or what exactly are you? I said, you realize that every cell, you are not an individual, but you are millions of living things joined together in a system. So you know you know what you are. You may not be able to tell me what you are. You know what you are. You know how you feel about things, how you think about things. And these things don't have a physical existence. They don't reside, say, in a certain cell. Because all the cells are constantly dying. Like your nerve cells, they last for many, many years. But stuff like in your gut, I think those are the shortest lived cells. They only live like 4 days. Your intestines and throughout your gut, those cells only live about 4 days. And there's different ones, in different parts of your digestive system. Some as little as 3 days, and some as like 5 or 6 days. But anyway, within a week, they've all been replaced. Now, I would like to take a sidetrack into food here, but I better not. So anyway, what you are is not your physical body. What you are is the thing that directs your physical body. Starting to sound a lot like the soul that the apostasy preaches, doesn't it? It is something that I call data. I don't call it the soul. I call it data. When we are given immortality, we are in the book of life. That's how the Bible puts it. See, now Jesus says, God is not the God of the dead, but of the living, right? And he's talking about Abraham. Now Abraham's dead. No, he can't think, he can't feel, he can't anything. He's dead. But he's written in the book of life. His data is preserved. God can put him back into any group of cells. He can put all those cells together anytime. God can do that. But the data is preserved, and he can always go back to being alive. And of course, those who believe in Bible truth believe that he will be put back into a body. It may not even be. It may not. It'll be similar to this because we saw that Jesus, after he died and he came back, his body was very similar. He still had the marks in his hands and still had the place where they stabbed him in the side. They were still there. And then he could speak and talk and eat and everything. He was still a human, but he was an immortal human. Okay. So as long as the data is preserved, don't worry too much about this body. This body is in a transition, life, death, going on all the time. Different parts of it. It just like, I don't know, my memory, it seems to be having a hard time nowadays. I'm probably having some shortage of neurons there, But anyway, those can all be replaced. And God willing, they will soon be replaced, and my memory will be much better. I'm expecting that. So let me see. Now, what was okay? Now we're talking about man, and I'm trying to get Back on the center subject and man's purpose. And the Elohim. Let's make man in our image and in our similitude, and give him dominion over the fish and the fowl and the animals and the plants and all that. So mankind dominated over all these things. Now, just that gets me on a subject right now. When I look at man's dominion over the things of the world, but let's go into the Garden of Eden. Okay, now I'm still trying to get at this dominion thing. It's kind of in the background. I like to lead up to it and set the background and get everything where we're on the same track. And I know it's hard for all of you people to be on the same track with me. You can kind of be a little goofy, but anyway, to get on track again. Now, Adam and Eve were in the Garden of Eden, and God told them, all these plants, help yourself, and He gave them everything that they needed. It was all right there in the garden. And all He would do was tend the garden. It didn't say anything about working in the garden. Any of you who have a garden know there's a difference between tending the garden. There's all this love and appreciation and enjoyment to doing things in the garden where you're seeing things grow and you're helping them, and this is a joyful, pleasant thing to do. Working in the garden was when you're out there hacking away at the weeds and you're sweating and your back hurts, and that's working. There's a difference between tending and working. And all man had to do was tend the garden, which was a very enjoyable process. And while he was tending the garden, there was no need for rain. I don't know if I'm getting too far off the subject of man here with the rain. I'll hold off on the rain part. Okay. So he had all this at his fingertips. He didn't have to toil. He didn't have to work. He just had to enjoy his role in the creation. Beautiful life. Beautiful life. And I don't want to put too much blame on poor Eve, because she's the first one to, I guess, listen to the serpent and have the serpent motivated. Now the serpent, who knows? Who knows what kind of an animal it was? And I do not think that the serpent had a larynx and a mouth and a tongue like ours so that he could form human words. No. Use your brain, okay? And don't think that a word is limited to the dictionary definition that we have in our English language. We're looking at God's communication with us. Now, the serpent communicated with Eve. Now, any of you who don't believe that you can communicate with animals have never had a pet, or never been around an animal. And I can understand that, because right now humanity, it has such a culture of death, destruction. They kill everything that comes near them. They won't allow any bug or any plant or anything that has life in it to come into contact or anywhere near them without stomping on it and killing it. So it's quite likely that many people watching this wouldn't have any idea about communicating with animals. But anyone who is not so death-oriented that they want to kill everything besides themselves will know that you can communicate with animals. See, I've got dogs in my house, and I know when the dogs want certain things. They'll come and they'll ask me, I won't even be thinking about it. They'll come and ask me for something, and I'll know what they want. They can communicate with me, and I can communicate with them. Now, and there's different forms of communication. See, now when we communicate, like on the internet or for email or whatever, they develop these emoticons, which are little picture-like things to convey the emotion that's supposed to go with these words. Because if we can't see somebody, we don't know how they feel about it. So a lot of the communication comes from my hands. I'm always shaking my hands when I talk. So anyway, A lot of my communication comes from my facial expression, my hands, my body, posture, and all that. Those are all forms of communication. The tone of my voice has a lot of communication, not just the words. So anyway, we want to think communication. We don't want to think words from the serpent. And the serpent communicated the will of the animal nature to Eve. I don't know how this was communicated, but I am certain that it was communicated from the serpent to Eve. And the serpent communicated the idea that what God said to Adam and Eve was not the truth, that they should listen instead to a new master, which would be the animal nature. She could see that the serpent could help himself to the fruit of the trees without any problem. Why was she commanded not to? Maybe God was jealous of her. And so you see the three basic rulers of the animal nature, which are greed, selfishness, and pride. The lust of the eye, greed. The lust of the flesh, selfishness. The pride of life, arrogance. So we have greed, selfishness, and arrogance. Those are the animal's motivators. And they all took place in her. She saw the tree that it was good. So the lust of the eye, the greed. And she saw that it was good to eat, the taste. That would be the lust of the flesh, the selfishness. And then she thought, well, God is going to be jealous of me when I become a God by eating this. And so the last one is the arrogance, the pride of life, arrogance. Those three things, those three motivators of the animal nature caused Eve to take the fruit of the tree and to eat it, to disobey God. She chose the master of the animal nature over the master, God, the creator of everything. Now, pretend like you're God again, or the Elohim in charge of a part of God's creation, and you're the one that's directing the creation of certain intelligent beings and everything. So, you're taking Mars and you're making it into a new Eden, or a new habitable planet anyway. And you've created all of these biological robots. Each one has a function. Your first ones are these little microbes that are just taking elements out of the ground, putting gases to catch more sunlight, to warm it up, and then as it warms up, you've got more heat in there that cause the elements in the ground to act differently and cause more growth. And these are all biological robots that have to die because there's not an everlasting need for them, because everything's going through this state of change. And as long as they can reproduce themselves, when there's too many, they die off, and you can you would always have the right amount. You'd have spikes and valleys, but there would always be the near perfect amount of these different living things. Now, so you definitely don't want these things to be immortal, because they're serving a limited function. Now, if it was part of your purpose to create immortal creations here, they would have to be different. They would have to serve more than this minimal function which the mortals fill. They would have to be able to be adaptable to any kind of change, to project into the future and see what future needs are going to be, instead of just reacting to what now is. In other words, they would have to be given this part that the other animals on this planet weren't given. The part of the brain that allows you to reason, imagine, evaluate, reason. This is so you can serve something other than your robotic animal lusts, flesh, nature, whatever you want to call it. If you choose to serve God, if you choose to think and do what is good instead of what tastes good and feels good, sounds good, pleases the flesh, if you choose the second master, Jesus tells us you can't serve two masters. If you're going to serve your animal nature, you're going to hate the godly nature that's in you. In other words, the godly nature is, it's making me do things I don't really want to do. I really want to do all these things that pleases my flesh, and then I got these guilty conscience and everything. And so you're going to love one and hate the other. That's what Jesus tells us. So to be written in the book of life and be immortal, this body may die. And that has very little. I like to use the Star Trek transporter idea. I think that's a beautiful science fiction idea. They put you into this ray, and they break your entire body down into energy, and then they send this energy ray down onto the planet, and then they start taking this energy and forming the elements and everything and completely reproduce you down there on the planet, the transporter. That sounds so godly to me. God is spirit. God is the energy that creates physical matter. See, these are all. So anyway, I think that's just a godly thing. And so, in the same way, you can be put together anywhere God wants you to be and exist there and have a physical body there. Because it's not the physical body, it's the data, and the data is preserved by God. Just like Abraham right now, he's both dead and buried, and yet he's living in that he is in the book of life. His data is stored to be put back together anytime God wants. And the Bible tells us that when Jesus returns, he's going to take the dead people and give them bodies again. So, okay, I guess this is pretty much what I wanted to get at is man and what he is and his purpose, and get you so that you have a choice. Always think everything, break it down into these two main things: life and death, God, and animal nature. These are in opposition to each other, and start making your choices. Are you choosing it because it feels good and tastes good and sounds good, because it pleases the flesh? Or are you doing it because it is good, because you can see that it's in harmony with God's will? Well, I'm running out of time, and I guess we're going to have to close this here. Thanks for watching.